Have you ever experienced a moment where your entire dance perspective changed? Like an experience that will live rent-free in your mind? Well, let's find out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to ZoukNerds. In this episode, we are diving into those incredible moments that completely transformed our dancing. Whether from a teacher, a class, or even a different dance style. Those epiphanies that shifted our understanding and fundamentally changed how we connect, move, and understand dancing. Get ready to explore with us the discoveries that reshaped our dance journeys. So, let's go! Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Alisson Sandi, and once again we have our beautiful co-host here. Hello, Prada.
Hello, Alisson. Hello, everybody, and welcome back.
All right, everybody. In today's episode, we want to dive to something a little bit more imaginative in a way. What is something that has shifted with some inspiration or discovery, something that transformed your understanding either of your own dancing or of this dance that you study itself, something like an epiphany? Was there any moment that you felt like, whoa, all of the things came together and then your dance transformed? Or like in some recent episode, we were talking with Raven, and she was talking about how there was a moment that there was a switch that flicked. And you also mentioned that, right, Guy? There was that switch moment where you were like, wow, finally, I understand this and I can do this. But beyond that, like as we were preparing for this episode, we discussed a few moments where in our life and in our dance, either a teacher or maybe a class or a different dance style provided us with this epiphany that we didn't have before in our dancing. So what was one, either recent one or the strongest one that happened for you, Guy?
Man, the strongest one that happened for me was years ago, was when I went to Buenos Aires for the first time back in 2009. And it's very common to have classes before the milongas, before the big socials. There's a class. It was my first class in Argentina. And I remember I was there a lot with this investigation to understand how come this dance that I would watch in the videos and people are smiling, having such a good time. When I did it in Rio, it felt so stiff and so hard. It was so weird to me. But I like the music. I like how it looked like, and I wanted to understand it better. So I went to Buenos Aires. On that first class, I went with Brenda, and we rotated partners, and then came this lady to dance with me. She was an older lady. She was shorter than me. She was like the stereotypical view of a cartoon grandmother, a cartoon character grandmother from a Pixar movie. She had the glasses, the mushroom-like white gray hair, super nice, smelling nice. And
that lady that is going to bring you that brilliant food that they prepared for hours with a recipe that they've had for their whole life. That kind.
Exactly. She's the one that's going to ask if I'm hungry and going to pull a sandwich out of her bag, And I took a side step with her, 2 steps on the cross, which is like the basic Tango sequence when we do in the beginning. And it was so easy and so smooth. And it didn't make sense to me that I was doing something so easily, so round with that person in front of me. She was an older lady. Considering that while I was in Rio, I was doing the same stuff with these 20-year-olds, 18-year-old girls. And it was feeling so stiff and so hard to make because of the technique that we were using. And that side step, walk, cross, it was one of the biggest epiphanies I've ever had because it just transformed completely my understanding of what is needed for a dance to feel good. And it has nothing to do with the body necessarily, with the age, with the shape, with the height, because that lady was one of the first times that I truly felt like I was walking on clouds, and also showed me how good walking could feel like, something that I haven't experienced in that, with that amount of clarity. So that was, I think, in my ranking of of moments of subtle or sudden sudden understanding of something, that's my top one. What is your top one?
Well, for me, actually, coincidentally, it was also through tango. Unfortunately, it wasn't in Argentina, but it was in Australia. When I moved to Australia, I started working with Brazilian dancing, Zouk, samba de gafieira, and all of that. And I was in a school that was very, very famous, very strong for Argentinian tango. And because I felt like I wanted to get better as a dancer and feed myself, I started taking private lessons with this teacher. And we were just doing like weekly private lessons for myself to improve and to understand better dancing. And I felt like I had never really truly felt how to feel my followers' body in that way. How the way I breathe, the way I simply place my foot on the floor, how my follower can feel that, or how I can actually intentionally communicate that in a way that, to be honest, it was like epiphany in a positive, inspiring way, but also in a very frustrating way, because I discovered so many things that I was doing and that was possibly very strongly affecting my followers, and I had no idea. Because the sensitivity level went from what I thought was a 10, but it was more like a 2 or 3, into the real 10. And then once I got to that, to understand that real 10 of like how every muscle and every joint moving my body can mean something or can make my follower feel something, bro, that was a moment that from then on, every week for like 3 years, that was like my favorite moment of the entire week. My private lesson with Amanda Metcalf, a teacher, amazing teacher from Perth, Australia. And that really transformed how I then went to dance Zouk, or to understand Zouk and all of the other dance styles that I do. And constantly that dance or the knowledge that I received from those classes really still comes out in my teaching, in my dancing, or even in my problem solving, to look at something or to feel something and go like, okay, do you feel this? And it really helps myself and the students. But I think the strongest point was how they made me feel instead of just understand it. So it was like, okay, I've studied this before, right? So I understand the mechanics, I understand the weight transfer. There are a lot of things in Brazilian dancing, like bolero, samba de gafieira, that we take from Argentinian tango and inspired by Argentinian tango techniques. But I had never felt. And that to me was like, wow, a new stage, chapter, level unlocked, and a whole new world that I wanted to explore for the next, I don't know how many years I could take.
That's really cool that you said like the feeling of it, how it felt like was the thing that, opened up. What is the name that we give when something needs to be felt? And there is a style of learning as well.
Kinesthetic?
Kinesthetic. Yeah.
Kinesthetic is like through touch. I'm not sure about feeling, but at least through physical touch. Yeah.
Through physical touch. Yeah. Through the physical touch, now, through connecting with the follow, like as you said, I never understood how it felt, or I understood how it can feel,
So yeah, visually, the visual learner can look at something and go like, okay, I see what's happening. I'm going to replicate that. And that's kind of what I did for years. I saw what happened. I replicated that. I asked my teachers. They're like, oh yeah, that feels right. That feels right. But I think it was very like, maybe, I wouldn't say surface, but it was enough for them to feel. And it didn't get to the point of like, okay, you're doing enough, but I want you to understand how far this can go and how small this can be and how much this affects. Absolutely. It was a whole new level.
Yeah, it's so nice. This is so nice because I think until we feel the thing really, we don't, or we have maybe the illusion that we grasped it, that we understood it. But when we actually feel it, it's like, oh my gosh. And that's why in certain classes, in certain topics, we need to connect with the students. We need to have them feel the thing because the power that it has is so great that it can really transform. Like in our experience, that feeling of the thing really shaped our understanding of how something can be or how good it can be. For me, it came out of a place of, it's not possible that what I'm seeing in the videos is what I'm feeling in my body when I dance this dance. There is something really off. And I think in your case, it came out of the curiosity maybe of like giving yourself like a treat and studying this new dance.
It was very much like, I don't know what I don't know. So I trust and respect that teacher, Amanda, like super highly. So I told her, I said, look, I don't know what I don't know. And I would like to study tango, but not because I want to become a tango dancer, tango teacher, or a master of tango. It's just because I see that there's so much in tango that I think is really going to open my eyes and my body to things that I have never experienced in my life. And that was exactly what I got. And that's why I really, really, really believe when I'm teaching that something needs to be felt, not just understood. Okay, I understand this, yes, but you need to feel it. It's almost like when you feel it, there's a stamp that you get into your brain. Whereas like when you understand, I feel like it kind of goes away very quickly. But when you feel something, it stays. It stays. And when I'm teaching or describing a movement for my students, I'll try to tell them, hey, feel like the weight in your leg, or feel like your chest is heavy on this side, or something like that, instead of like, okay, look at this. I want your chest to be in this angle, or I want your hips to be in this angle. Like I really want them to feel the process in their body. It's fascinating. And of course, just for everyone listening or watching this, we are talking about tango because that was an epiphany, but this is 100% something that we feel through Zouk, through any other dance style.
Yeah, we are
that
still
first moment.
Yeah, we are still talking about the epiphanies that came from tango. There are the epiphanies that are gonna come from Brazilian Zouk.
Yes.
So people, cool your jets. It's coming. Yeah.
Yes, and there is something that I must say, because it's something that we hear very often from our students when they allow us to get that deep in their learning. They sometimes come to us a few months later and go like, when we were doing that and learning that, I love it. But I also hated that I learned it, because now I want it all the time. And when I don't get it, I feel like, why not? Like I want to feel that way again. I want to dance with everybody and feel that. So, when you taste ghee, this is a perfect example for ghee. When you taste that gelato ghee, because ghee is a gelato aficionado.
I'm a gelato snob. The correct word is snob.
And then maybe I'll go to a place and go like, ghee, this gelato is amazing. Let's go and try. And then ghee, grabs his pen, paper, and his chef, attire.
Texture, smell.
And then he goes like, well, I'll give this a 5 on this, a 7. because you've experienced that supreme gelato. So be aware that it's a good thing, but you need to see it for what it is. It's something that, you're not going to get all the time, but that doesn't mean every other gelato is bad. That doesn't mean every other dance is bad. It's just a different perspective that we can still appreciate every sort of movement, every sort of connection.
Yeah. For me, you just get introduced to how something can feel, like how far you can take that thing. For me, my head just reinforces what we talked about in the episodes that we mentioned, all the aspects of sexual energy, and we mentioned the aspect of sensuality, that we are sensual creatures in the sense that our senses, we communicate and understand the world through our senses. And with movement and movement together, the sense who is more engaged is the touch sense, is the tactile experience. So when through that experience, we get to feel in our bodies how something can feel like, man, that's so powerful. And it takes me to my second epiphany moment, which happened on that same trip. Just a couple days later, I went to this very posh, very elegant milonga, this big golden ballroom. I forget the name right now. And I'm sitting there, and this lady comes in. She was a tall, older lady. And I, didn't give much attention to her. But she wouldn't stop dancing. She kept dancing the whole time. And I would see the other younger girls sitting way more than she was sitting. She was non-stop. So I, got some courage, had some wine, stood up, did the most rude thing ever in Tango, which was I stood up in front of her and extended my arm, my hand. I didn't do the cabeceo. And she said, yes, the moment that lady hugged me, I felt maybe for the first time like I was the last man alive. There was a zombie apocalypse. It was just me left. And we danced. And it was like she didn't have legs. At the same time, she did have legs. What do I say? She didn't have legs. There was infinite space for me to go anywhere, in any direction, at any point. And then I felt like I was a tanguero. I was like, my God, I know this dance. I understand this thing. But it was her all the time, just being amazing. And man, that dance screwed and scrambled and put my mind in a blender and shook it and threw it in the river. And, it was a whole thing because I judged her by her looks. I judged her by her age. I judged her by, in comparison to everybody else that I was watching. It melted everything and built back up again. It was a big moment for me. And this is not the first one, because the first one, the dancer was a shorter, older lady. This one was my height. So her forehead was with my forehead. So she was just looking in. It was all in with her eyes closed. It was like her nose was on my cheekbone. Yeah, she was tall. She had this height equivalency. And it was almost like she hugged me with her back. It was kind of like she extended so far around my body. It was almost like she went around 2 times.
She was like a massive bird.
Exactly. She was like 4 meters wingspan and then boom. And she didn't disconnect one moment. It was almost like she tattooed herself to my body, but she would adjust so nicely to everything. And the weight transfer felt amazing. So I think that was the first time that I experienced the full power of how good a dance can feel. And the fact that it was with that lady, it was more mind-blowing to me. So yeah, so this was very important moment, especially in the sense of freedom to move. I had freedom to move. I could go anywhere. I could travel at all speeds in all sizes. And she would come with me. That was like very incredible.
And how do you feel that those experiences shaped or transformed your dance after what happened?
I think it was more changed the way that I was looking at a follower. Like my first impression, I would create a judgment right away just by looking at the person. So I would not give a chance to actually hold the person and go around with the person. I would just make a judgment and sometimes not even invite. So I was probably missing several opportunities to have an amazing dance because I was just basically inviting people I was attracted to. And that was like, 2009, 2008, 2009. So very young into my hardcore training at Jaime. So I was just dancing with the older women as a bolsista because I had to, not as something that I was extracting pleasure from. And dancing with that lady opened so much that pathway in my head, in my feeling, that I opened myself to enjoy dancing, enjoy comfort, enjoy coziness, enjoy connecting in a more, I'm going to say, intimate way, in the sense of the faces are closer together, embracing with the armpits, going all around. So allowing myself to go there with someone physically from a place of comfort, from a place of desiring to experience that together with that person, regardless of who they are. So that was an important milestone for me in my mindset, and an important one as well in the sense, like you were saying, I felt how it could be. I felt this deep sense of synchronicity, of attunement with another body, And I like to use this analogy. It was almost like she was a passenger in my car. I mean, I was a passenger in her car. She gave me the keys. She said, "You can drive. I'm gonna take a nap here while you drive. Drive smoothly, just don't wake me up, take me home safely." So that was it felt like that. I felt a deep sense of responsibility. It was almost like for the first time, I felt a level of trust that I didn't realize it existed. She just held me so tightly and closed her eyes, like right here, my cheekbones, and just stood there waiting for me to do things. I was like, how come this lady just goes and wraps her arm 3 times around my body, close her eyes, put her nose against my cheek, her forehead against my temple here. It was, and I was a boy. I was like 18, 19 years old.
Am I in love?
Yes, am I in love with this lady? And I think she was probably in her late 60s, So that was mind-boggling to me. It shook me in the core of what I understood of goodness. My understanding of goodness was shaken.
It was very much like, I am not a man. I'm just a boy. Really?
Yeah, exactly. She, in the most elegant way possible, said, "Come on, boy, show me a good time." It was like that in a way. And it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
She was not from Argentina. She was from Romania.
And I think that's even more interesting because it's like, okay, we could argue, oh, maybe this person was born dancing tango, but maybe they weren't. And that's something that is very valid, to be very honest, a little bit sidetracking here, but a lot of the best dances that I've ever had in my life were not with Brazilian-born Zouk teachers. Or even teachers. It was with people who are very passionate, dedicated, and they have this thing about dance and themselves that is so interconnected that, language size, knowledge, experience does not matter. It's just how that person has put and connected everything together in their own experience. So yeah, I think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And another,
There is an aspect of like the embodiment of the spirit of the dance. Like when I think about this ethereal form that the dance could take, if we would turn the dance into like a character or like an entity, some people channel that. And Tango has a very particular entity. And I think even if someone was not born dancing tango or start learning at a later stage in their lives, when they embody the entity, man, it's amazing. Because like you said, my most amazing tango dancers, they were with like this Romanian lady, with Russian ladies, with American people here as well. I have a couple dances, very good dances with people from Argentina, but mostly was from like actually Russians. And they embodied the spirit, you know? So when they come with this whole thing. I remember one time, the second time that I felt that I was the last man alive, I commented that with the person. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm the last man alive. And then she said, oh, because in that dance, you were, you know? And that was like, bruh, like there was that intention behind everything. And then I was, oh my God, yes, I completely felt it. Thank you so much. God bless you. And life continued. But I had that experience with a non-Argentinian person that didn't start dancing tango from an early age.
And I think that's interesting that she not only like accepted your compliment, but she felt it and then understood. She was like, yes, that is exactly how I go about this.
Yeah.
That was not accidental.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. You don't know you're going to get this dish, but that's the dish I serve. And you will be pleased.
You will be pleased. And I was.
Yes. And I think like talking about the same idea, which is very much about confidence, about like understanding your body and mechanics and technique. I want to talk about another maybe extreme opposite, but in somewhat connected. Because in previous episodes, we talked about technicality, we talked about connection and flow and things like that. And if you haven't subscribed or followed yet, please follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, so you can get caught up with all of the other episodes. But this was when I went into my next journey, which was after I did tango, I went into ballroom. And I know maybe some of you from Brazilian Zouk will go like, but ballroom has no connection with Zouk. I'm like, yes, I agree in many cases. But for me, what really was the shift for me was the fact that I do not need to make my follower do anything. My follower is fully 100% capable, responsible, and aware of everything that happens in their body. And I don't need to baby them, you know? So when I was doing tango, I felt that, or when I was doing other Brazilian styles, I felt that way, but I always felt like my responsibility was a lot. And then when I went into ballroom, because of my teacher is like extremely high level, master of technicality and structure. So when I was like doing and learning the things, she was like, Alisson, you don't have to worry about me. That's my responsibility. And I'm like, how? But like, if you fall, it's my fault. She was like, no, if I let you make me fall, that's my fault. And I was like, whoa, that's a whole extreme. You know, of course, like I mentioned in the very beginning, ballroom can be very different from Brazilian dances or more social dances. I was doing ballroom in a more, I would say, structured, semi-choreographed way for like exams and medals and things like that. But it allowed me to also see the other part of it. You know, the part of as social dancers, improv dancers, we look at ballroom and we go like, oh man, everything is so choreographed. It's so unnatural. Yes, but no, but maybe, but sometimes. Because yes, it can be choreographed. Yes, it can be all like they know everything that is about to happen. But that doesn't mean that they're disconnected at any point. So that was the hardest thing for me, to remain connected, but not in a way that I am not looking after myself and looking after my partner more, which is something that I think in our more improvised style, we do a lot. A lot of leaders, they don't look after their own dance enough in the search for being the best leaders and looking after the follower the best they can. And a lot of followers don't look after their own dance enough in the search for being the best follower and always be ready for anything. But I think there are other ways, such as the one that I experienced through this other discovery, epiphany moment of studying ballroom with that specific teacher, where she showed me that she is 100% following me, but I am not to be responsible for her doing her things right, or my follower doing their things in a way that I'm expecting, or that the body of the follower needs to be in a certain way. So it was very mind-boggling. Yeah. Even describing now, it's hard to describe.
Yeah, it's more like accepting that the follower will handle their own balance, that the follower will handle their own stepping, that the follower will handle their own path, that they know their path. You are guiding them through the path that they know how to be guided through,
Exactly, because like coming from Brazilian dances and then into tango, where I learned to fully surrender my body first, to then connect with my follower and understand that trust and that surrender, that, bro, like everything is going to happen together and we're here for each other. And then jumping to the other extreme of like, yes, I give you my connection. Like that's the way the follower embraces me. They're like, I am giving you my connection, but this is my dance, And it's very interesting because something that I haven't mentioned yet, my previous teacher, this ballroom teacher, she was at that point training for Blackpool in England. So she was Australian champion training for Blackpool in England, and it was like championships years. So basically, she had this very, very rigorous training that she could not mess up with her dance in any way, because anything could destroy her. Basically, imagine Olympics. So most of the students in private lessons would have to dance solo for at least 4 to 6 months before you actually hold her, which is, again, another very, very extreme here. But to the point that she's like, no, you're not ready for me to give you my connection, because I need you to stand up properly in a way to hold me properly. I need you to step in a way that you're not going to bump into me or injure me or something like that. So it's kind of like he had to walk up to as close as possible to her level to make sure that you're not affecting her, and then she can fully trust you.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's hardcore.
Not yet, young Padawan. You still have much to learn to get the privilege. And I understand it. I admire that. It's like, I understand what I need. I know what I need. This is what I need. Mm-hmm. Until I get it, not happening.
Yeah, my first 2 or 3 months of private lessons were just solo. Just me every week going across and doing things in the mirror, doing drills. I only when she opened her frame to me and I'm like, huh? She's like, I'm going to teach you now how to hold me. I'm like, whoa, okay. I was so nervous because I was like, shit, I don't think I'm ready. I was doubting myself at that point.
You know what that remembered me? Do you remember the Devil Wears Prada movie? Yeah. Where the character of Meryl Streep, Miranda Priestley, she was calling Emily, because she just calls everybody Emily. But when she called her name, Andrea, she was like, "What?" She actually used my name, like, so you evolved,
Yeah. So I felt like I had passed a phase. Now I achieved this new level of connection with that person, which was very scary, but also very rewarding, because we all want to always continuously improve. And the interesting thing is that after those 2 or 3 months, she also took interest in learning Brazilian Zouk and Samba de Gafieira. So she was like, "Hey, I wanna do private lessons with you and learn this Samba de Gafieira thing and this Zouk thing, because I think it's gonna help me. I don't have that in my dance. I don't have that in my body, these shapes and these things that you guys do." And we started training, and she became pretty amazing.
Wow. Yeah. Ballroom has its, of course, it has its power, has its value so much. One of my favorite quotes is from a ballroom teacher when he would say that the follower is the engine and the leader is the steering wheel. And I really like that quote because it's something really similar to what we use in Brazilian Zouk, where we have the follower being the flow and the leader being the container, like the organizer of the flow. It's similar, just different words, but I like that quote a lot.
I think that describes exactly how I felt dancing with her. And by the way, I haven't mentioned this. We were doing standard ballroom. So like foxtrot, waltz, slow something. I forgot the name of the 5 dances. So it wasn't like cha-cha and jive and all of those things. It was like the closing brace. I wanted to only do that closing brace thing. And I felt that every time I would take a step, I felt like she was equally pressing against me and equally driving my body forwards as I was trying to, go forwards and take her to step back. There was like this equal perfection of like, she's 100% on my body, but she's 100% driving me. It was incredible. And I guess you can also feel that in Argentinian tango.
Oh boy, yes, 100%. And now that we are talking about this, I might be having like another epiphany in this very moment, because I'm now realizing how lucky I was in my journey, having very powerful followers in my journey as teachers and as people that I danced with in the social, and
Absolutely.
how dancing with them on a regular basis made me progress so much, because I realized that whenever I was dancing with them, I felt that I was amazing. It was all them sort of extracting something from me by giving me trust and by doing their thing. I would go for a step, they would take the step. And if I didn't take the step, we would still take the step. But it didn't feel jarring or bumpy in any way. Now I'm realizing that Bianca Gonzalez, Adriana Gronot, Paulinha Leal, all these teachers that I had back in the day that danced with me so much and so like willingly to help me improve, they made such a difference in my life, because I could feel from a early stage in my dancing journey how good the dance can be, how good it can feel. And it felt good when I was dancing with them because everything felt so easy, So I think it was just like a luck, a blessing, right place, the right time kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
But it really contributed so much to my development. And I was always in their classes and they would always do it with me. They would be like, now do with me. Almost always in rotation. They were outside the rotation. They'd walk towards me like, do with me. And then like, adjust this, adjust that, do with me again. And, so grateful for that. And the followers did that. I had the leader teachers that they were there the whole time, but getting that input from the followers, I think it was so important.
I think it's a whole topic for us to discuss and to have obviously some beautiful followers, guests here that can talk more about this, because it's so important to have strong followers, teachers in every community. Like, bro, the best communities that I've worked with anywhere in the world were either fully run by primary followers or very strongly influenced by primary followers. Like, basic example, DC. You know, here we have also in Taiwan, Taipei, in Perth, Melbourne, many places that I've been with. Amazing. So it's something that we should bring back in another episode, but we'll have to have some guests to actually give the right perspective on this.
Yeah. And so we don't end the episode without giving any Brazilian Zouk related insights, epiphany.
Sorry.
Yeah. There is one that I want to give, which was the first time that I realized that Zouk is a weird dance, in the sense that we can become really good at this dance, but in just one part of it, and have the best time of our lives with that one part. And that's fine. Because I came, and that was after I became a teacher. That was in my early days as teaching, but I had this idea that the dance needed to be learned in a systematic way, and things needed to build, so you could only get this thing here if you get this thing here really well. That was theoretically in my head, until I go for a weekender. I see a leader dance with a follower doing all these crazy, amazing things head movement wise. And then in the workshop later, he was struggling to walk on the downbeat. And when I say struggling, I say losing balance. I say struggling that I needed to hold him and walk next to him because he was losing balance by walking and could not change direction. And we also had an example here in DC of someone that traveled and moved here from another state to join our advanced teams and stuff. But in the warm-up, in the audition, he could not change direction in the viradinha. He could not change direction in the basic, but he could do complex head movement comfortably. The followers liked dancing with him, But that was after the Epiphany. When I saw that, when this leader came to DC, I was more like, okay. But when I saw it for the first time, my mind glitched for hours for me to wrap my head around the fact that someone could skip footwork completely, learn complex head movements, go to the social, do it well, comfortably, follows like it, and that's fine. So it's like, yes, I need to accept this dance is these two things here, that they can walk together or not at all. So that was one of the biggest epiphanies as well. And this time as a teacher, not anymore as a social dancer.
Yeah, for me in Brazilian Zouk was how the dance can be so different, but like so extremely different, and the feedbacks that you can get can be very contradicting about the same thing from various people. Almost in a way that, like, is there any correct way or bad way or anything like that? To the point that, like, for many years I was really struggling with trying to find how to connect well in a way that felt good for most people. I will never be able to please everybody, but I was trying my best to please the majority. And some followers would tell me, oh my God, you feel so gentle and so light. I love dancing with you. I just feel like you look after me so much. It's great. Love it. Other followers would feel like, oh wow, you're very precise. Like, I can feel everything that you're doing. And like, I always feel that you're there. So that was already like a little bit more than the super light, gentle, and comfortable. So I'm like, okay, I'm very precise, I'm firm, I'm clear. And then other followers would say, and I'm talking about in the same month, okay? Other followers would say that I was too strong or too restrictive. And then like I was too precise about things. So all at the same time, I just had no idea what was right, what was wrong, what should I do? Because some followers would tell me, oh, Alisson, you're too gentle. I feel that your connection is too gentle. I don't know what you want. And then other followers would tell me, oh, Alisson, your lead is a little too precise. Like I know what you want, but I don't feel like I have space. And then I'm like, what do I do? And then the epiphany came when I started like understanding and studying the fact that once I understand the connection that we create, that's where we're going with. And that can change throughout the dance. So what happened in those moments from my understanding was that it was not the connection that both of us were sending to each other. Maybe I was being like super gentle, super comfortable, but my follower felt like something a little bit more connected. So they were looking for more connection and I didn't give it back. Or there were moments that I was like being more clear and precise, maybe trying to hit some parts of the music or the movement a little bit more clear, but my follower was craving a little bit more space and more opening and more gentleness. So for me, the epiphany was like, okay, so everything is correct, but depends in the moment, depends in the person, depends on how the other body is feeling. So, okay, now I have to study like constant adaptability. Like I mentioned in previous episodes, an airplane doesn't fly straight. It heads straight. It heads to a certain direction that might be straight ahead, but it's constantly adapting and doing small variation of things to stay on course. So it's kind of like understanding that I can train the perfect walk. I can train the perfect pre-movement or prep or viradinha. I cannot do that perfect in my mind with everybody because it's going to feel great for some. It's going to feel okay for some. It's going to feel terrible for others. So in the end of the day, I need to learn the structures, the connections and everything like that and be adaptable to change with whatever is needed in the moment. And that's when I put that responsibility on myself about 10 years ago. I'm like, it's my responsibility and I want to take that responsibility to learn as much as I can, to adapt as much as possible to all the followers. A follower who needs more presence, I'll be there for them. A follower who needs more space, I want to be there for them. And everything in between. So that was another epiphany moment because I came from a dance school that my primary teacher in the dance school was always, his number one saying was, if your follower is smiling, you're doing a great job. Which is a great goal to have. Love it. But I completely never really look after my own dance and how that affects my follower. I was just trying to please and get that smile, but I wasn't really listening back or I wasn't understanding how what I'm saying creates different things and all of those nuances, so that was a great moment for me.
Yeah, man, it's so funny because first of all, amen to everything you just said.
Yes.
Because exactly, I just want to compliment because I was talking about this today. I was literally talking about this today with a group that we are studying for an event. And we were mentioning that as an analogy in the Avengers Infinity Wars, the one before last, there is that scene where Doctor Strange is sitting and moving his head very, very fast, and where he was looking at all the possible outcomes. He was visiting all the timelines and he was visiting all the multiverse to see the probabilities of them winning the war against Thanos. And I like to use that analogy that every time you're going to dance with someone and every movement you make, you are basically looking at the multiverse and you see like all the possible pathways that can be taken with that person to take that step in that place, in that song. So one of the things that happens a lot with us leaders is that we sometimes lock in one universe, one reality, one possible way of doing things. And we forget to consult with the multiverse. So the invitation is exactly that. The Epiphany, I think it relates to that. Understanding, oh my God, there's a multitude of possibilities here. I was just seeing one this whole time.
Yeah, and I think the magical moments, those moments of true flow and connection is when both of you meet in the same universe and possibly find the same portal to the same other universe that both of you transports yourselves into. So maybe you were in this universe of very flow, very chill, very whooshy things. And then within that same dance, the music kind of shifts and the DJ is playing something else. And then both of you go and see that other portal and both of you like, okay, let's go there. And both of you travel to that other, maybe funkier, maybe bigger place, more energetic place, instead of the leader being the only one seeing the portal or controlling the portals. Exactly. Or the leader being the only one sitting on the passenger seat and only waiting for the portals to show, which was kind of where I was. I was kind of like confused. I'm like, am I supposed to like tell my follower there is another portal there? Or am I supposed to sit and wait for my follower to show the portal for me? Like, where am I? So I got really confused for a couple of years, and it was a very interesting moment in my dance where I didn't feel very confident about my social dancing. Not at all. Like I felt really, really disconnected with my social dancing. And once I started understanding that, then I saw the light and I'm like, yes, finally, I can start taking steps to get out of this dark place. And, you know, it's a never ending road, but I'm glad that I have progressed.
Mm-hmm. Very nice, man. And I think that's it, no? We covered a lot of epiphany moments. I love there's a word that describes epiphanic. I don't know if there exists, but moments of epiphany.
And hopefully this wasn't too crazy of an episode. Every now and then we deep dive more into those abstract areas of our knowledge and dance experience. But hopefully this was helpful to help you in giving you some clarity and guidance in a way that not everything is going to go according to like a formula. We have to continuously keep searching, and there are moments where you're going to have those breakthroughs, and try to remember those moments and learn from those moments. Every class, every dance, every experience can teach you something. So stay open, stay learning, and be forever student with us here at ZoukNerds.
Yep. Yes, I think that everyone that shows up in our lives in general, but this is because we are in a dance-related topics podcast. Everybody that shows up in our dance life can teach you so much and can reveal so much. And in the experience that we just shared, the stories that we shared, these were people that, you know, were not connected to us in a consistent way. It was someone that we danced one time in this one place a long time ago. Like these strangers came in and changed everything. And it did because we were open for those changes, or we didn't know we were open. I think we took a leap. I took like one leap into, let me open myself just a little bit. And then they just like kicked the door open, you know? So it's just more like opening a little bit and you might see a whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah, allow yourself to take that first step. that first step can take you to maybe other 10 steps and you don't know. But take that first step, take that class, ask that person that you're afraid to ask, or you don't think that you guys are going to connect well. Ask that person, learn from that teacher that maybe you don't think it's their style. Because if you take that first step, the rest will just follow.
Yes, there was one last thing I just remembered. Maybe one of the coolest questions you can ask your teacher or someone. Can you do this thing with me? Maybe ask this more. Can you do this thing with me? Can I feel it?
Yes.
This is a good, keep that one. I just remembered suddenly of the importance of that.
Alrighty then. Thank you so much for being here once again with us. And please don't forget to follow, subscribe, and check our social media and channels. It really, really helps us staying and keeping this project alive here for you guys. So we'll see you on the next episodes. Beijos, abraços, and ciao.
Bye, everybody.